Welcome to the podcast, The Way of the Sensitive. I'm your host, Cora Wilde. The Way of the Sensitive is a podcast for those of us who feel called to live in a different way, to create a new society where diversity and uniqueness is celebrated, not shamed. We are the channels of the light, co-creating a heaven on earth upon this beautiful planet. We are here to live and achieve our soul's goals in this lifetime. To us, it's not woo, it's real. Call in all the magic makers, the mystics, the empaths, the sensitives, the starseeds, the artistic, autistic. Sometimes sidelined, sometimes scapegoated, but we know that we're here to create new pathways in the one mind. Because it's not just about traversing alternative dimensions, it's also about landing and being fully alive in this gorgeous world. Hey Misfits, and welcome to episode 2. So can I call you Misfits yet? I'll have to wait and just play along with different words until I start getting some feedback. So, episode 2, and today I'm speaking to Antonina. Antonina and I met a couple of years ago on the entrepreneurial online world, and she is just a brilliant person to jive with. She's just really good at seeing the vibration, and so she is known as a vibrational coach and mindset mentor for conscious individuals. She works with spiritually minded people, empowering them to create the necessary changes to build a life that looks good from the outside and feels good on the inside. She passionately believes the world would be a better place if more people were truthful and honest about what makes them happy and joyful. Her big mission is to assist as many women as possible to be truly happy and at peace with themselves, to become fully realised in their life and their work, to come together to heal, to grow and step into their most potent, powerful self. And this will create a shift on a humanity level, redistributing the wealth into the hands of those who need it, heralding the start of a new earth. When she's not coaching clients, she's likely found travelling to faraway places in communion with the elements at the nearest beach or wrestling her 6-year-old into bed because contrast. So I really enjoyed this episode, and it's one of those episodes where there's no how-tos as such, but in the sharing of her story and her vision about what Antonina calls the new earth, really similar to the new way that we support on this podcast, we talk about missions, mission energies, how to recognize a calling, what to do when you go off track and you find yourself on the wrong mission. We also talk about how we are here to embody archetypes like priestess energy in a new way, in a more modern spirituality. So Antonina talks quite a bit about her vision for the new earth and the kind of people that she wants to work with and to step up and be leaders. And the kind of leaders that we talk about might surprise you. So listen in, enjoy the show, catch you soon. All right. Hi, Antonina. Welcome to the podcast. So you're going to be show number 2. I really appreciate you coming and chatting with us at the very beginning of the podcast. So thanks for that. I'm really pleased that it's you. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm very pleased that I'm here at the very beginning too. I love being at the beginning of things.
Yeah, that new excitable energy is really cool, isn't it? Okay, so what I always start off with every podcast is the question of what do you like? What's good about being a sensitive or a starseed or a misfit, however you define it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the term. Like when you said misfit, I was like, that's right on. That's exactly it. An unconventional or a misfit, like it really encompasses, like a sensitive is who I am. Mm-hmm. A misfit is how I relate to life. And
I love that.
And for the longest, like misfit and unconventional, it really encompasses that energy, and it has so much richness and so much possibility with it. So for the longest time, I associated the label with being different, not fitting in, failure to comply. But I think the last couple of years, the work has been about embracing and falling in love with that inner unconventional. And like these days, I'm mostly proud of her. I'm mostly proud to know how she is, and I'm mostly yeah, like proud to be different and not fitting in and quite enjoy it even.
Yeah, and I love the way that you relate to like this that concept of misfit as like an almost like an inner her. Like that's the I don't want to put words in your mouth, but also almost as though that's the soul expression of you. And it's like, how does that part want to show up rather than how I'm being told how to show up?
Exactly, exactly. Because what I discovered on this journey is, you know, if you came here and you don't fit in, it's not because anything is wrong with you. It's because you came here to embrace and create the new. And of course, that's very much how we both think, and we had a lot of conversations around that. But it's been so freeing to recognize and realize that for myself and for others, because of course, then it just gives it energy and direction. And it can be like, I can stop hurting myself and talking on myself and shooting on myself about why am I not doing things the way others are supposed to do, and like funnel the energy. Funnel is the word that's been coming up a lot like
Mm.
today and overall. So funnel and direct that energy and that drive into just creating new, and like that's just opened me up to so many possibilities. And like I said, it feels very freeing to embrace that. It's like, peaceful. Ah, I'm at home.
Yeah. So for people who are listening and don't know, Antonina and I have known each other for a few years through the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial world now, but we kind of share the passion for channeling too. And something that you alluded to there was it's almost like there was a pivot point or something for you that might have lasted quite a while, or it might have just lasted a few moments where you shifted from that identity of not belonging, not fitting in, and feeling, to a bit out of society to like really owning it and claiming it and letting that help you pave that identity, pave the new way. Is there like what helped you shift out of that idea that it like who you were was wrong in some way and who you were was who you meant to be, and actually who you're meant to be is like pivotal to this like new earth concept that you have, which I'm really excited to talk about?
Oh, okay. Was there a defining moment? It hasn't, it's been quite recent. So I think 2016 has been such a pivotal year for many of us, just
Mm.
because anything and everything that was not the truth was either taken from us, or we had to let go or shed or disconnect, or part ways with, whatever you want to call it. And I think from that, what arose is the truth of who you are. And so in my case, I was about to launch a program. So I went all guns blazing and about to launch went to launch a group program. I was very excited to introduce concepts. I managed to get some support with it. I don't know, beautiful designs, everything, like all the particles were in place, but it just didn't feel right. And I didn't want to face it initially. I thought that was just my resistance. I'll power through with it, because that's what, like that's the kind of picture that we're given.
Mm.
On the in the online realms. And so I think one of the days I ended up talking talking to a coach of mine who I hired specifically for the launch to support me throughout the launch. And I guess it was just a great fit. And she made me think of a bigger picture. And so there were inklings of the thing that I had that were coming in since last year. And to a degree, I have tried to launch it form or the other, but there's this law of gestation, so the time has to be right. Anyhow, so fast forward to now, I'm trying to launch. She asked me to open up about the big picture, and I guess it was the safe space and environment for me to kind of like just have this download and speak it and share it. And she said, well, what you're like, how come what you're doing now is so far away from um, like that's amazing what you're trying to do, which made me admit to myself that yes, I've gone into the mainstream, and here's me trying to be normal and mainstream and accepted and doing this whole thing by the book, and totally and not fully owning and embracing my messiness, my edginess, and my craziness, my cosmic self. And so as a result, I ended up pulling the launch, even though it cost me. The outcome was that it just, yeah, allowed me to sit with what is it that I want, and admit to myself that this new thing is this new direction that I wanted. I think I had to sit with it for a while just because it felt so big. And once I kind of owned and admitted to myself that that's what I wanted, it just got easier. Um, and, knowing that it's my life's work and I can take my time, and I'm okay about taking my time and getting there. I don't have to do it tomorrow. Um, yeah, and just that's that. And from that came a lot of peace. Obviously, there's been work in the background to do. And as you know, we had a session around it as well, and that really helped. But just tuning into myself and trusting that what was coming through is what I'm meant to do. And I find that the entrepreneurial pace is quite different. Everybody's, you're being asked to launch here and there and just be wow out there. But this new energy that wanted to emerge, much more grounded, much more pace. And so I guess the pivotal moment was letting go of what wasn't and embracing what is, and feeling like electing to trust that. If it's my life's work, do I have to pull it off tomorrow? No. And that not hurriedness, it makes all the difference for me personally.
So it sounds like slipping out of that vibe of pressure to do it in a particular way,
yes.
Release that anxiety, and with that newfound peace, then information could start flowing into you.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as you know, that I had a move to the coast last year. So I think it's all been ordained and orchestrated from before. So I moved from London, which is obviously a fast-paced city and very kind of hustle, give me what you need, to a much slower environment. And I knew that it will have an impact on my work, and it has. And I guess these were the remnants of me wanting to adapt. So it's, again, like the lesson here is me trying to adapt to something rather than following my own flow and my own pace and my own speed.
And that's really interesting, because I know, like, we're kind of doing the opposite. So I'm moving away from like country and ocean and more into the city, and you're doing the opposite. And that's another thing, is like, it's whatever you need right now. There's no prescription for all. And what I really like about, I think, where you're going with your work and this whole concept of the new earth and this new mission, I'd really like to start having a conversation about mission energy and what that is. And there's so many, there's so many rules out there in our spiritual community that we're kind of given a mission at birth. You've got to find it, and you won't settle until you find it, and then you'll know what to do with your life. And it's just, in my experience, it's not like that. So I'd really like to hear, your experience and your ideas around that.
Yeah. So mission, I mean, I do subscribe to a concept of mission. I always knew that there was something. I call it a calling, though. So there was always a calling. I knew that I wasn't supposed to live in my birth country. And this is before I discovered anything about being a sensitive. So there's always a sense of knowing. But I guess I feel like what you're trying to say is that hopefully what happens is the idea is to find yourself in the midst of the chaos. And through the finding of yourself, it then becomes clear, like the next stage almost, is self-expression. So then the idea is it a mission? It's an idea. How do you want to express yourself in this world? What is it that you want to do? How is it that you want to do it? What is it that brings you joy? Because does the mission have to be hard and sacrificial? Or can it be joyful and playful and fun and adventurous and exhilarating? Like, what are you about? So without knowing the first part, the second part is you can't really go into the mission straight away. And of course, like you said, there are so many ideas from the spiritual community, from the archetypes, from the past, and so forth. The mission is to, I think there's a quote by Picasso or somebody that the mission is to or is it the purpose is to find yourself, the gift or something else is to give it away. And I really subscribe to that. So like once you
Whoa.
find yourself, I need to find that quote. Yeah. Sorry for the inconsequential, but yeah. So the idea is you find yourself first. You find out who you are, what you're about, um, and then you look into how do you want to be in this world.
I love that you've just said about you find yourself in the midst of chaos, and that's what it feels like, isn't it? And it's kind of like, I suppose my perception is it's a self-chosen mission, because I
Yes.
think we did incarnate with certain ideas and possibilities, and we made choices like you mentioned. There was obviously something about your birth country, and like I know a lot of us feel like white sheeps of the family and so
Yeah.
different from our family of origin, and that's part of the plan. And then
Right.
it's recognizing that uniqueness is like
Is
part
the
of the
is
new
the
way.
thing. Exactly that. And like you said, there are so many things that will come together. It's interesting that you mentioned the moves. Like the thing that happened with the move here released a lot of pent up extra energy that used to be used up for things like, I don't know, going shopping, food shopping, or sitting in a traffic jam. And that extra energy can be harnessed and used towards something else. But I do understand your desire and your pull to move to a different environment, because, again, like the drive there can be compatible with what you're trying to create, what you're trying to go. So like the clues and the keys will always be there. Like one of the things that keeps coming up to me stronger and stronger is something around like having a contract with the land. And um yeah, so I'm exploring that, and I either keep having conversations, I've been having dreams where I'm in communion or I'm talking to the land. um they're like I said, there are clues planted everywhere, to the point where I went in my local shop the other day and actually found a leaflet about say a workshop which is about like being a sacred compass and understanding all the energies of the leylands and so forth. So I'm trusting that there's this energy is coming in for a reason to educate me on my next step, because part of my program has to do with being in certain places and having that energy exchange. So like I'm choosing to trust and I'm choosing to be open, and it's coming in at the way, and just the way, at the strength or the pace that it's supposed to, and it's exciting.
So I'm just wondering about people that might be listening that are like, I wonder what my mission is,
Yeah.
and how we can kind of have a conversation around that. And
Okay.
I suppose, like when mine landed, it was just like, oh, it just felt so right. But at the same time, it was like, well, I didn't see that coming. I
Hmm.
didn't see that coming.
Exactly that, right?
But then when it
When
gets here, it's like, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
Totally. If you remember, I mean, part of like defining it has been through the session, and so you did a confirmation about the energy that wanted to come through, which was priestess energy, which kind of took me back a bit, because it's a term that's very popular and throwing a lot these days, and there's always one this year, and this year this has been the year of the priestess. So I was like, oh, really cringe. Like, I gotta be like everyone else. And as much as I love my priestess sisters or my goddess sisters, there's also a part of me that wears Converse and jeans and I don't know, I'm not going to say likes to climb trees, but it's very different to what the priestess archetype is about. And just the idea that it's so popular kind of turned me off. And so I had to, yeah,
Spoken like
I
a
had
true
to
star seed.
I had to sit with that for a while. Like, seriously, me, this girl, a priestess. But then I could not recognize that resistance is exactly that. It wouldn't be just easy to just slot into place and go, whoa. There have been other things beforehand, and what I'm embracing is the energy of the archetype rather than the outward experience to a degree.
So
And
that
I think
comes
that,
back again to like a unique expression of an archetype. So the archetype
yeah,
has got
thank you.
like certain components to it. There's certain, and that seems to be kind of what we're doing is we're taking archetypes that, especially women, you know, like archetype of
Yeah.
mother, archetype of priestess, archetype of goddess, and actually just finding a unique expression of that so that we can expand possibilities, you know, because my expression of it is very kind of modern, and we want a spirituality for a modern world, won't we? We're not living how pagans used to live, you know.
Exactly, right. I love what you said there, because it is obvious that the divine feminine is rising. And the reason that these archetypes are rising is because we're finding a way, more and more ways to express ourselves. And so because the energy is rising so rapidly, of course, like there is this resurrection of the archetype, just to kind of narrow down and explain what's going on. But yeah, it would be silly if we all dance naked all day, every day, and and burn fires. I mean, like, I don't know, this religion, I'm not sure it would be able to take it, but I love the idea of taking that expression and making it your own, and like adding in your own unique blend and energy. Like, who said a priestess cannot wear Converse? Like,
Yeah,
why not?
yeah.
Or crystals in her bra or something. Like, I wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Yeah, and for me, like from a broader perspective, when I ever think about diversity, I mean, obviously from like a personal point of view, my family and everything, I always think about neural diversity with the Asperger's and the autism. That's like how we defining that kind of diversity. But I always think about like we're trying to live in physical reality, expanding the one mind, you know. So we want neurodiversity because we want different pathways created in the one mind, and we want diversity in expressions because I mean growth doesn't stop, does it? It just wants expression, and that's source energy to me.
Awesome. Yeah, I think same thing, slightly different perspective. I love what you said about the one mind and new neural pathways. Absolutely. So there needs to be this diversity in, hence so many people are waking up to their sensitivity, uniqueness, and in that difference, we find the sameness, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And so that's that common humanity thing, isn't it? We've all got things that bind us together. We all have similar struggles. We all have similar emotions. You know, we just express and explore them in different ways. So I know your kind of self-chosen mission, as I would define it, but what you're calling or
Yeah.
what you've landed is, and I can feel butterflies in my stomach already thinking about this. It's so exciting. Is about people that feel called to create a new earth and want to find joy from the inside out rather than from the outside in. So do you want to tell us just like what you've got at the moment going on in terms of
Okay.
like how you think about this new earth and this calling and how people might recognize that?
Oh, okay, juicy. Absolutely. So, the vision, mission, and purpose that I'm following right now, and this is the kind of the end of the idea. Then what I'm going to do, what I'm doing is working backwards from that.
Mm-hmm.
Is this kind of 12 month leadership program for the new earth, and particularly women in particular. So I'm looking to work to mentor, to guide and support women who are ready to embrace their calling of seeding the change. And
Okay.
when I say seeding this new change, I want to work with freaking badasses who are who want to make it their mission and do something about like creating this change now, like almost in a way of starting a movement, because we can all sit and wait for the change to take place, or we can be the change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And starting a movement, and you know, it can be changing the education sector, maybe, I don't know, introducing mindfulness in school and making it the new normal, right? Or going to a corporate sector and asking them to pivot towards making it more people-centric rather than production-centric, creating I love the way you said new neural pathways, like creating new programs for growth and expansion, um, and so forth. So just yeah, so just being really active in their respective community, in their respective sector, and being the spiritual activists that they are.
So how? What I'm thinking is, how will people recognize if they are in that place? Like, what would be going on in their life? And so
Yeah.
a couple of things. If you've got answers flowing already, then answer that because I've got more questions.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm loving this process because it helps me discern. But like, here is what I notice: um, they will have this knowing about their innate power. They've been told about it throughout their life. They have the ability to affect. But here is interesting enough: the potential for the power that they have is the potential is it can be showing up as disempowerment in some areas. So they might have this knowing about the level and the ability to influence, and then but they will be very disempowered in their relationship, or it might be their health, or it might be another area of their life that seems to be coming up a lot. And so they know that they're so freaking powerful, and yet what kind of seems to stop and stop their growth, as it were, is this thinking that I'm quite fragmented. Like, I know that when I start, it's the knowing that they have this influence, and yet thinking, but I burn pizza, or I don't seem to be able to raise my kids, or I don't seem to be able to find a man. So, of course, the idea is to create an environment, an incubator, as it were, or through our work together, we're going to raise their level of vibration and awareness and just help them harness and recognize and grow this power, rather than because them stopping themselves thinking, I have to get it right, I have to be whole and perfect. So
Okay.
this is so what I'm seeing is like the current education, which I know you're kind of taking it into your own hands, right?
Yeah.
And
Okie
they
dokie.
concentrate on the mistakes. Like, here is what you have, and here is how you're not doing well. Although arguably it's somewhat changing now. There is this philosophy that if they were to highlight their strength, the outcome would be completely different, right? And anyone who gets ahead in life and in business, as it were, they work to their strength, they work to their potential. So if we were to take these women and to support their growth and their expansion into their power, and clearing all the shame and the guilt and the fear that comes from standing in that power, like, how freaking awesome would that be
Mm-hmm.
if they finally owned up to the fact that they're all, and their own recognition to their innate ability and power, and worked and funneled that, as it were, and were driven by that, and nurtured that, rather than them concentrating on the fact that they can't cook to save their lives or anything like that.
Okay, so there's some of that, like they feel
And
this calling, they feel their power, but because their life is not perfect, or they're not perfect in all areas, that turns into like a way of self-criticizing and talking themselves out of that calling and that power.
yes. So that has been my observation. So I've been doing some market research, talking to some ladies, and that seems to be coming up a lot. So there is this whole suppression of um, who they truly are and their true capabilities. So they will be like, bowing it down or playing it down and not fully unleashing it. So it's about nurturing that and allowing them to step into their true potential. So it's always been there. They will have recognized that somehow. Um, how specifically to recognize? I'm thinking of an answer. It's they will have been inklings of them knowing that. Like, most of the time, it's something around just influence, them able to influence. When they're in their power, they can move mountains, but sometimes they don't know which mountain to move. Or a lot of the time, they will not know which mountain to move, um, because there is so much noise and interference in their frequency, that, yeah, they're like, I can move a mountain, but which one is it? I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. Okay. So I know like part of it is you've been on your own journey with this, and that's why you can understand some of the concepts, and you can tell where people are, and you know how you can support them. So
Yeah.
like, how did it show up for you? This
Mhm.
process that you've just like, how did it show up for you that hold on a minute. The bit that I want to focus in on is, how did it show up for you? How did you know that you were an influencer? Like, how did that show up in your life?
Again, so that's since I was young. That has been okay. I'm going to try and answer this. New memory coming through. So since I've been young, it showed up as a desire to lead. So this greatest potential, but it's something. But I was very aware that that triggers people,
Mm,
and so my whole life is about downplaying my truth and potential. And there are people around me who would recognize that and point that out to me. And I mean, I'm very good at hiding. I mean, part of me choosing the coaching profession is I can focus on the other person. And so it's been about finding the people, the mentors, the peers who are able to recognize that, and yeah, like working on me being okay with being the powerful person that I am, and unraveling that relationship. It showed up, like I said, just me trying to downplay it. I would continuously get into relationships where I would feel disempowered, abused, undermined.
mm,
I don't know, pushed around. So a lot it would show up in the relationships
yeah.
and kind of boundaries. And or I would get like, I feel my whole life up until now has been like a big field research where I'm either not in my power or I am. So
Yeah.
there will be, I'm prone to like one of the things, right, is having an addictive personality. And the way I see it, I don't even call myself an addict. I could never refer to myself as that, because I could always there would be a point where I would recognize what I'm doing and just decide and stop that. And so it's because I'm either disempowered, right? Or I'm consciously deciding I'm not going to
Mm,
do that to myself
mm-hmm,
anymore. But yeah, it's like a series of tests where I would fall into this victim position,
mm-hmm.
and then one day, I guess, when I had enough, and I've taken everything that I could from that situation. It would be like, right, this stops now, and then people would comment, people, or I would recognize, oh, that's quite a strong-minded thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
but that's how I operate. And so then slowly, as I learned to love and accept myself and worked on myself forth, then it was like, well, what would it, how would it look like if I stopped getting myself into this situation and just like started working with this dynamic, diverse energy, and directed it towards my personal growth and evolution.
So what did you have to let go of in order to make the decisions and just like, this stops now? So what did you have to let go of? And because I'm kind of thinking that we get comfortable with certain, we can get comfortable with the victim role, or we can get comfortable being a certain way. And it's kind of like, it makes me think of Joe Dispenza's work, where he talks about we almost get addicted chemically, that shows up as emotions to a certain state. So one of the things in the spiritual community, it's like, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And sometimes that's really bad advice, because
Mm-hmm.
you have to navigate that place where it doesn't always feel right, because you're having to let go and
Mm-hmm.
disengage from a state that has felt familiar. Did you
Yeah.
experience that? Is that?
Yeah. So if I were to dissect my process, how would it go? I guess something like a target, I call it, something to work towards, and then I would understand that part of me reaching that state, that point, that target, that identity, is I need to shed anything that no longer serves me, and most of the time it tends to be the old identity. And so then
Mm,
I'm so driven and so excited about this new thing that um, somehow I start methodically working, or just it's an understanding that I have that like if I want this new life, I have to drop the old life. And so it's yeah, sometimes it takes time and it's very uncomfortable. I mean, the last one was probably the move where I knew I wanted to leave London for a while. I knew I wanted to leave my old house for a while. I outgrown it energetically, and I just knew there are signs that I have. Like I wake up and the wind changes, or I don't want to unpack my suitcase if I come back from traveling. Like I know when this is happening, it's showing me up. It just stops bringing me joy and it becomes a drag on my energy. It's more like
Okay, so that's it. It
so
stops from being a joy and feels like a drag on your energy is one of the signs. Yeah.
probably, yeah. So it stops being exciting. It stops like you fall out of love with something. And so with the move, I was very attached to the outcome. Like, what would it look like? And I guess that stopped me for a while. So when I started digging deeper, I understood, oh my God, I'm, as you said, addicted maybe. I'm very wrapped up in the identity of being a city girl. And so, so I had the solution, but I resisted it because of being wrapped up in this identity. And so it took me, once I got the realization, it took me the opportunity that was the opportunity. If where I want to go, that identity, that addictiveness, that attachment, was it serving me or was it holding me back? And in fact, I realized that it was holding me back because you just become like, so like rigid and stale. It was like, no, it has to be this way and this way only, like Robocop. And so I remember when I made the decision, it felt like jumping off the cliff. It was like, I understood all of those things and I was like, all right, that's it. I'm letting go. And it really sort of, it kind of felt like there was a void or a period of in-betweenness for a while.
Yeah.
So I've jumped, but I haven't yet landed.
Yeah.
But slowly and surely, of course, when I have, things have just worked out beautifully. It was like boom, 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 boom. Everything that I have asked for from the universe the year previously was exactly so. And some things that I haven't, that I wanted before, but they haven't had chance to realize. So I remember walking from school with my daughter one of the days, and I looked up and I saw the stars, and I was like, holy guacamole. What I asked from the universe before is that I live somewhere where I can see the stars, because of course London is like full of smog and you can never ever see the stars. and asking for a house with some sort of a swimming feature. Well, we have a small pond now, but okay, I wasn't specific on the details. By the forest, near to the beach. Like the beach is a 5-minute drive, and I was once, remember, asking for like a very particular like kind of architecture, which is those old English Tudor house, which it kind of is, like on the outside, because I just wanted the outside to be pretty. It's that.
Wow.
So it was like even to the tiny little detail. But all I had to do is let go of what I thought was right, which is living in the city, and just embrace what was.
Okay. Right. So embracing what is.
Kind of like part manifesting story, but part of not being wrapped up in the identity and being made like it just, I found that I made like, and this being wrapped up in this dignity just makes you very rigid and unavailable for change and unavailable for that away. Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, that identity or that self-image is the story that we tell about ourselves of who we are, and there's a familiarity to that, but then it starts to become a drag, and who we are doesn't feel any good anymore.
So many people are right. So many people aren't happy because of their status quo, or because they have a house, and so their identity is wrapped up in being a house owner, or maybe their identity is wrapped up in being in a particular job, or in a particular industry, or in a particular relationship, right? And they can't. The lesson's been like they can't imagine. Like, how do I recognize? Is like because you can't imagine yourself not doing that. I remember when I was pregnant, my identity was wrapped up in that being a party girl. So like my first thought was, Oh my God, I won't be able to go out for 9 months.
I love that.
So it wasn't about the baby, it was about my, but I knew that she came for exactly that reason. It was time to break that. But yeah, so it was like so rigid. Like, who am I going to be if I'm not going to be this party girl? Like crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, and the thing that I was listening to there as well is that whole idea of the void, and that's where we can kind of like lose it. I think my friend Kate Trafford has this saying that it's like, can you, oh, she'll say it better than me. I can't remember the exact words, but can you wait long enough or just be open enough to see where the magic wants to start? And I know,
Yes.
and that's the thing that I'm hearing in your story as well, is like that void can be so fucking uncomfortable
And scary.
and scary.
Absolutely.
Because nothing is showing up. The universe is not listening. You've been abandoned. You've got it wrong. Who do you think you are anyway, asking for that? Of course it's not going to show up. But that's the bit where you've just got to wait for all those changes. And it sounds like, listening to you, they are multidimensional changes. And so then you start getting snippets of information flowing through from things that you notice, things that you see, things that you hear, and it's like you have to wait for that new reality to form and then land, and then you know where you can fit into it, and that's where like magic starts happening. Yeah. So tell me about this new earth.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. So
what are the components of it? Sorry, yeah, right. What are the components of it? So for example, like I know we need a new way is kind of like, we're very similar on this, but need a new way. And I know part of that for me is like just extraordinary kindness and respect of differences and diversity and sensitive and trauma sensitive and all that kind of stuff. You're like, there's components of it. And I really would be curious to see what the components of this new earth is about. I have a sense it's like, it's power, it's pivot, it's like just, do it, or what's it kind of look like to you?
Yeah, so power is obviously definitely a big component to it. And kind of, if I were to go further than that, the reason why we want to do it, like the big thing where I realized the other day is about taking, so if we were to have these women who are supported in their growth and expansions and their desire to see this new change, I see it as redistributing of the wealth and power. And we know that His Holiness the Dalai Lama has said the world will be saved by the Western women. And so that has that kind of quote has always stayed with me. But I was thinking, but how? But how? And so to me, this is the answer to how. The more we have women serving other women and providing this new earth leadership. And when I say new earth leadership, yes, it has a lot to do with power, like just the main component, our innate power that we are awakening to. But I keep wanting to call it the nurturance leadership. And it's kind of like embracing the new way. It's embracing our femininity. It's embracing our internal guidance. It's embracing our cycles even, and not adhering to this very kind of masculine, straightforward way of being and doing things. So it's probably like, embodying and being. It's there's a lot of emphasis on embodying and being. I would really love to create the opportunities where women can bring their children along with them, because on this path there is a lot stands on the choice of like, I really want to do this, but what am I going to do about the kids? Right? How many times have you had to face that? Like, I really want to go to this event, but the first thing I need to sort out is to sort out a babysitter. Now, if I were to encourage to meet, and the idea is wanting to meet in different sacred places, that is, a chunk of time out of your schedule. Granted, not everybody will be world schooling their kids. So to open up the idea is to open up this opportunity to the kids as well. So there isn't this separation, and mommy's doing this while you sit at home and wait for her. Mommy comes back a different person. There's going to be tension because mommy has shifted. She's not the person that she was when she left So the kids tend to kind of absorb it by osmosis. So why not create a situation where we can take our children and have them, be looked after as well, and maybe explore. And not quite clear on the details, but like the mommy can learn, and then the children can do their own thing because they're independent being. But like just they will be picking up this new consciousness, that will be absorbing it. So. We're growing, they're growing, So I know that there will be a component around this. There will be a container created for them to kind of embrace and develop their ability. I know for a fact that like the first part will be about being really grounded in who you are and how you are. So that will create a firm foundation before you move into like how to express yourself. And I also know that the big component there is somehow working with the land. So again, what I observed with a lot of light workers, there are particular times in the time of pivotal changes that you will see this desire to be in place at a different time. And there have been like the last couple of years, and it would be like everyone I know, everyone who who resonates, again, can be filed under the term of light worker. They'll just suddenly know that they have to be in a particular place at a particular time, and it'll be like a lot of movement. And of course, we know that the land stores a lot of memories, and kind of it all plays a role. So the idea would be to be when we're actually meeting in the physicality, which will create the opportunity to like really up level and expand and evolve, but also just be with the people who value and understand you and see you who you are, because there's always that pull. It will be something around working and getting activated by the land somehow, which is which will kind of add to the experience that we're having, because I don't believe I no longer subscribe or believe that like it's great to learn while being on your computer or physical classroom or virtual classroom, but if we're going to be progressive, like why not learn in a place, in the open ability? Like why not work with the elements? Why not to like take it in all? And I also find it like when we are learning, right, again, for information to land, there has to be some movement, like dynamic energy. So I find that when I have big downloads, I have to go walk on the beach. Do running, right? Process. That's to like embody, to process. So then we would work with the land, but there will also be an opportunity to, I don't know, swim, walk, climb, roll around, do something to kind of really to process that and embody and anchor that energy.
So I am really seeing a blend of the ancient and the new there then. So it's like creating, it is like a tribal space that helps people embody their own inner priestess, and that priestesses come together to work with the elements and the message of the land, and to get information from spirit and inspired by that, but to really ground it, because that's one of the things that I think, can be really tricky, is to get all that information and then, like you say, process it through your body so that it becomes an integral part of who you are in this new identity, but then to also like, okay, so what does that mean about how I need to change how I show up in the physical world?
This is, because this is, I think, where support and sisterhood and whatever you want to call it is super important, because like who hasn't received massive downloads and then went, whoa, what am I supposed to do with that? Again, when I received that one, I remember calling one of my friends crying, and she was like, what? It's like, because I can't grasp it, like me, like what do you want me to do? How can I even where do I even start?
Because sometimes when information comes through, I'm like, I am not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. But part of that is because I can't imagine that I can contain that, because I've got a smaller view of myself than spirit has or something.
Exactly. And that's probably another way, like you said, how would they recognize this? Is they will have been nurturing an idea for some time, which is like akin to a movement. Um, but most of the time, perhaps for a number of years, they will have been talking themselves out of it because of the sheer magnitude. It's like, wow, why me and how me? And so, again, what if we were to bring together a number of people, women who are already on the path and also nurturing and carrying some crazy ideas, and then bring the support tools and the opportunities and the structures to kind of take it to the next level. Like, so it's a play of like what would happen if this were to happen, and like how would this impact, and what would be created as a result. Because just as you or me are carrying that idea, there's somebody who has an innovative structure,
Yeah.
right, who are wanting to implement, but they're searching for who to implement it. So it will be a concept in that we'll have a chance to plan and experiment, and just this idea of this embracing this messy play, I want to say, and see what comes through, because there is no map and there is no navigation in how you call it, like living with in two worlds. It's the only thing we can go by is balancing and synchronizing and aligning that what we're receiving into here, and creating a structure so that it becomes not like that, but just rather like that. Because if we were too much in the physical reality, then it would feel kind of draggy and maybe boring and heavy on you. Like you would always feel like something is missing. Whereas if you're too much in that reality, you're too flighty and disconnected, and you kind of almost like lose interest, isn't it? This is how people go into other worlds. They check out. Like, I'm done here.
Oh,
so,
and that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like if we are born with a lag in each world, then our only mission, as it were, is to learn how to balance the two and live with the two, and everything else is birthed out of there.
That's a perfect place to kind of wrap up, because I could go into this whole thing about, who's your role model, and sometimes we just have to be our own role model as well. But I think it's, probably, I think I need to get you back.
I think you need to invite me back, and we have to carry this on, because actually, as you asked that, I was like, blank.
I have had to be my own role model a lot of the times, for sure. And I think, when you are leading a movement, or when you feel a call to do that, you have to be the role model, and it's constructing something completely new. Okay, so I will put on the show notes where people can find you, where you hang out on social media, and where your website is. And you've already mentioned did you say a 12-month program if people are interested?
So this is the AND program, but of course, there are also 1 month and 3 months container to kind of prepare people to kind of like as an entrance into what will be eventually created. So yes, please reach out to me, ask questions. I love questions. Connect. Let's talk. Let's get to know each other. If this has somehow made something light up in you, or like you heard a ping, or just a knowing, or somebody pulled on your heartstrings, then like that's a sign that we need to talk.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I love the term that you've come up with, your job title. Can you just share what your job title is?
The vibrational coach and mentor.
The coacher.
Oh, the coachinista. Yes, the coachinista.
I love that. That so sums up your energy. That just.
Oh, thank you. Brilliant. Thank you. Sometimes, Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, no, if you've got one more thing, I was just going to say goodbye. Okay. Well, thank you again. Thanks so much. And I'll get you back on the show, I think. But thanks
All right.
for talking
let's
today.
do it.
Okay. Bye for now.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.